Hey everybody, this is James Wade. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at Leap. We're going to get started today. We've got our awesome partners, Tim over at MarketSharp. He's joining us today as well. We've got Patrick Fingles, who's the CEO and founder of New Look Home Design here in the great state of Maryland. So we're going to get this thing kicked off in just a few minutes. I know there's quite a few people still tailing in. So we'll give it probably another minute and a half, but just to let you know, if you can't share my screen, on your right-hand side, just some quick housekeeping, you should see a section in there that says questions, etc. Actually, there we go. You should be able to see it, or not. Never mind. Let me try one more time. All right, there we go. I think you guys can all see it now. So, like I said, if at any point in here you can't see something or you have a question, we like to keep these things very casual and very open. The purpose of these is not to ram any sort of sales pitch down your throat. It's to educate you, which is why we have Pat here. He's probably the reason why everyone wants to be on this, not me. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to get this thing kicked off in just a minute or so. More importantly, you should have in this in that little toolbar for GoToMeeting, you have a questions tab. Feel free at any point, if you do have any questions, drop them in that. If you're actively listening to me, feel free to put a little +1 in there right now just to let us know you totally understand how to use it. Again, we're going to be referring to these throughout. Awesome, sweet, we got our first one. Thanks, Brett. Throughout this, like I said, if you've got questions, this is an open forum. So we want you to be able to freely ask those away. We're going to address as many of them as possible. If for some reason we don't get to it, don't stress. We literally will answer every single one of them and reach out to each and every one of you guys individually. So whatever we can do, feel free to jump in there and ask away. And looks like we're about 3 minutes after, so I think at this point we should be able to get this thing going. And FYI too, this is all being recorded, so if there's any reason you guys have to jump, which we hope you don't have to, you're more than welcome to, again, because we have all this stuff recorded and we're going to be sharing it out afterwards. So first things first, before we get kicked off, what I'm going to do is I've also got Michelle here, who's our marketing manager at Leap. I'm going to have her drop in a quick poll for you guys. When we kick this off, it really helps us to understand who's attending today. So what we want to do first and foremost is we really want to ask you guys what tools you're currently using. I know we've got a mix of folks on here, some who likely use MarketSharp, some who use Leap, some who use both, and then some of you guys who have no idea who either one of us are and are really just excited to hear more about how Pat has been so successful in leveraging technology. So do me a favor, up on your screen right now, you should be able to see a poll. Do me a favor and answer that for us so that we can get an understanding of what you guys are using. It looks like 45, 50%. Nice, thank you guys. So we've got about 70% answered on this. Let's get that 30% going again. Awesome. So we almost there, come on. 75%, we can get a little bit more. We'll keep this thing open for another probably 15, 20 seconds. 20%, come on, you 20%, get after it. Let us know. Let's go. All righty. So we'll give it another 5 seconds to give that 15% left a chance to vote. All righty. So we'll go ahead and we'll actually close the poll. Thank you guys so much for doing that. And without further ado, let's get this thing cracking. We're going to try and make the most out of this next 45 minutes to an hour and get you guys exactly what you need for the day. So first things first, here's the agenda we're going to cover. So this is obviously a partnership announcement and really something we like to emphasize several times throughout the year, but more importantly, the thing that we're doing differently now is we're bringing customers on. Pat in general, in this case, Pat's going to talk to us a little bit about how he's leveraging both of these tools. So first we'll start off with an overview of who Leap is, what we do, etc. Give you guys a little bit of an insight. Again, these are not designed to be really that in-depth demo. What our teams are really good at, both Leap and MarketSharp, is we'll give you a really concise run through if this is something that you're in the market for. And again, understanding what we do at a high level really helps understand whether or not this is something that will fit in your business. So first things first, we'll give you just a little bit of a teaser of who both Leap and MarketSharp are. But more importantly, at the end of this, we're going to dive into this with Pat and understand exactly how he's leveraged both tools to really leverage and grow his business. So with that said, the theme of today, too, that we're going to be running through is really owning your lead pipelines. Because at the end of the day, we all know that leads are the lifeblood of our industry, and without them, none of us are going to sell any jobs. So with that said, lastly, we'll break out into some Q&A. That Q&A is really going to be your opportunity to really pick Pat's brain, pick my brain, pick Tim's brain. We're all here to help give you guys the tools that you need to be successful. So feel free to ask away. All right. So without further ado, let's get this thing rocking. So let's talk a little bit about Leap and who we are and really what our main focus is. So first things first, this is the Webster's dictionary version of who Leap is and what we do. But if I had to sum this up in really just one or two sentences, the more important piece is when a lead comes in, the second you've confirmed that that person has both a pulse and an interest in getting some sort of estimate, Leap can take that person and own that sales process. So Leap is pivotal to take whatever you generate, and again, leads are the lifeblood of our industry. We'll take exactly what you invest in, really focus on giving your salespeople in the field the tools that they need to convert that person all the way through a signed contract. At that point, pushes back to your CRM and gets rocking. But Leap is the tool that truly owns that in-home interaction with your customers. All right. Next bit we like to focus on, again, is a statistics that we commonly see when speaking with any of our customers and going to any of the trade shows, et cetera, is, a lot of home improvement companies out there are spending roughly somewhere in the ballpark of we like to say 10 to 15% of your revenue on lead generation. And the thing that blows our mind day in and day out is that while you spend that much money on generating leads, oftentimes the companies that we deal with aren't spending any money or very little money on the tool to actually convert them. So at the end of the day, they're left with a stack of really good qualified leads, and their sales teams are going out in the field with paper, lacking the tools they need to close business. So how are you guys really diversifying how you approach these these customer interactions and set yourself apart from your competitors? So again, this is really one of those themes that you're going to see hammered home throughout this entire presentation. So when looking at Leap, Leap has the ability to seamlessly plug in to MarketSharp and pull out those lead appointments, putting them on the calendar of this individual salesperson. When we go through, I can then dive into the home and say, all right, let me give you my company story. Let's talk about the things that we're going to do with you today. Let's take a look at your digital brochures. All of these are in a format similar to that of a Kindle, almost like a book on your Kindle. The beauty of that, too, is you don't have to carry around a small library. When you come in fumbling, fully weighted down with, a million different brochures, you probably have products, et cetera, that you want to display to the customer. It's distracting. So this is a way for you to also clean these things up, make your presentation that much more concise and pointed. As you go through, there's a lot of really cool, neat ways. There's actually 3 different views in which we can create proposals and estimates for literally any products that are sold. Early on in Leap's creation, we actually had somebody ask us if they could use Leap to sell meat out of the back of their truck. Obviously, we're not going to go into detail on that, but the reality is it doesn't matter what you're selling, from kitchens to baths to roofs to siding, you name it, there's somebody using Leap to sell it. Because at the end of the day, it's that interaction with that homeowner that's so incredibly important. You can create these estimates really quickly and have the ability to price out different options 10 times faster than you could on paper, or 100 times faster, but also exceedingly accurately. At the end of this, if you don't ultimately take that to a contract and get that thing signed on site, what are you doing? You got to make sure that you give your sales tools or your sales teams the tools to close this business, let alone interact with the homeowner. Going back to the concept of the CRM pairing with Leap, You also have to have the ability for your sales teams to tell you what happened on site. For the majority of you on this call today, you're likely a business owner. It's arguably one of the most annoying things in the world to not know what happened on that really expensive lead appointment that was set. Hey, what'd you do? Did you sell it? Did you not? Why? And stemming off that question, why? Not only can we get the summary of what you guys have done, again, more importantly, we also have the ability to go back and understand every single little thing that occurred on site. Leap's an app. It's natively built into the iPad, which means you can do pretty much anything that you need, whether you have connectivity or whether you don't. There's a lot of tools out there that claim that, hey, we're cloud-based, we can do this, we can do that. But the reality is, none of them are a seamless operation. You have to have a paper backup. Leap, on the other hand, if you're in a bomb shelter basement trying to get some remediation work quoted out, probably don't have very good service. If you're in the middle of the country, you probably don't have service. If you're in the city and you're doing an internal building, we deal with a lot of companies in New York and Chicago. Guess what? They have terrible service when they're in those old brick buildings. So with that said, Leap can literally do anything and everything that you need to do fully offline. So with that said, I want to start segueing in because, again, I want to get to Pat. Pat is the one that we're here to see today. Why do we partner also, too, with MarketSharp? And why do we partner with anyone? The reality is the way we approach these conversations is we want to make sure that we listen to our customers and really fundamentally understand what they need and make sure that Leap can seamlessly integrate. If we have a tool that nobody else can use because it doesn't plug into the systems that function or functionally run the other elements of your business, it's pointless. It's a paperweight. iPads are cool, but if they don't serve a purpose with everything else technologically in your office, it's not a good thing. So what we do is we look to find those core partners that layer in those other fundamental elements of your business, and we integrate with them. A CRM, and that's one of the main things we're going to be talking about today is the relationship of Leap with CRMs is, that's almost the lifeblood to the core of managing your leads. You have to make sure that you can not only get those leads into your system, but you have to track them all the way through install. The CRM isn't necessarily going to get you what you need when you're in the home selling, but it has to be able to categorize and securely store and organize that data throughout that life cycle of the lead. So anyway, we got to make sure that we understand exactly what this does. You manage your leads, you get the appointments. It takes you all the way through your document storage, tracks every step along the way, and more importantly, it also is used to get right back into that marketing cycle where you can go back and turn existing leads and existing customers into future customers. So with that said, MarketSharp, and the reason we're here today, again, MarketSharp is one of those companies that early on in Leap's existence, we found was just the perfect partner. Again, they're a highly innovative company. They really, truly have been in this industry long enough that they're setting the standards for best practice. Like they're leading, not following. We all have a similar audience. I mean, I think with that poll out there, there's a sizable chunk of you guys that use this tool or use both of our tools already. So it's pretty neat to see exactly how these two things are married and to see customers on these calls today. And then lastly, when we look at this stuff, you guys were both so customer focused and believe in each other's growth so much that we've really doubled down on a lot of technology to make it so that our systems play nicely with each other. So again, we're not going to go deep into the integration and how it technically works on this call, but it's something, if you are looking to find out a little bit more, at a very high level, I gave you, again, an insanely fast run through of who Leap is and what we do. If you're at all hungry for something that's going to allow you to have the best possible interaction with your homeowners and maximize your lead conversions, again, we see it all day long, and Pat will tell us how much it's fundamentally changed the way they interact with customers. Like, I implore you, you owe it to your business. Get a demo, Let us sit down one-on-one with you guys so you can really see exactly how we work and how it would layer into your business. So my pitch aside, again, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Tim. Tim's a rock star, you guys. I'm sure you've all seen him at any of the major shows throughout the industry. He's been a dear friend of Leap's for a very long time, and we're lucky to have him today. So I'm going to shut up on my end, pass it over to Tim, and we'll keep this thing rolling.
All right, thanks, James. I've really been looking forward to this webinar for a long time because I kind of look at what you guys are doing at Leap and what we are doing and have done at MarketSharp. It's very similar. And, that'll become a little clearer as we get into a slide or two. So go ahead and flip the slide if you would, James. For those of you on the webinar that don't know what MarketSharp is, and by the way, James did a great job giving you an idea what it is. It's a web-based marketing and management system. The letters CRM are what many people use for this kind of thing. But here's the cool thing. It's specifically designed for remodelers, contractors, and home improvement pros. And what it does is helps track and manage all your contact, your job data. And here's a big one. It generates leads for you. Here's a huge one. And James, you talked about this. It helps in many ways to convert these expensive leads to sales. And that's the challenge we all have in this business right now. And then finally, it's going to increase your repeat referral business. And then it's going to give you all the numbers you need to really keep your finger on the pulse of your business and what's going on. A little bit about MarketSharp's evolution, which is kind of interesting. It kind of got started, if you want to move to the next slide, James, it kind of got started probably long before many people on this call were watching the Super Bowl, but there was an ad on the 1984 Super Bowl that some of you might remember. It's actually one of the most famous ads ever on TV, and it was an ad for a Macintosh computer. And I saw that ad, and it was so almost breathtaking what they were conveying with this. Something in my mind triggered and said, you know what? This looks like it could change the world. And lo and behold, kind of did. So it took me a little while to react, but a couple of years later, I went and bought a Macintosh computer, as you can see on the far right, and started fiddling with it. At that time, I was in the window replacement business, doing pretty good. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to figure out what these computers can do for a business like mine. Learned how to program it. Took a little time to do that. But then about 1991, I had a program that was helping us in our business. And one day a window supplier came in and said, what's that? And I said, that's a computer. And he said, well, okay, what does it do? So I showed him. He says, hey, would you show my boss this? Window manufacturer up in Minneapolis. And I said, well, I guess. So up to Minneapolis I go, show his boss, and his boss said, hey, we got a dealer meeting coming up. You want to let these guys know what this is? And I said, well, okay. So up in front of this room of about 120 people with a little 9-inch Macintosh computer, no projectors back then or anything like that. And I talked to them about this concept. Back then, what I created was now known as a CRM. Back then, those 3 letters weren't even put together. But at the end of the presentation I gave, which by the way took 7 hours, 8 of them raised their hand and said, can I have one of those? And I went, I guess. And that's kind of how MarketSharp got started. Of course, it's evolved over the years. It evolved when Microsoft Windows came out in 1995, evolved a little further in 2006, 2010, and now today, MarketSharp CRM, works with the internet as everything else does. And we're proud to say last year, the users of MarketSharp, the companies that use MarketSharp, generated and installed $3.2 billion worth of home improvements. So just a little bit of evolution of MarketSharp. Some people might find it interesting. So if we go to the next slide, what I want to chat about now is where MarketSharp can help your business as a CRM. And I'm just going to talk about these things briefly. Certainly marketing and lead generation. Got some really cool stuff that works with the internet to help you generate leads and get them converted, which is the third thing on the list. In the middle, you're managing all these leads with things like scheduling, tracking, calendars, and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, you are going to convert some of those leads. And by the way, MarketSharp can help you nurture these leads that don't necessarily sell right away. That's a huge thing nowadays. But sooner or later, you're going to get some people that say, okay, I'm in, and buy. And then MarketSharp takes over with customer and job management, helps you with production, the service part of your business, all important customer feedback, getting you online reviews, which is going to result in creating lifetime customers, repeat referral business, which is what we all love. And then as it all winds up, all the data that's residing in your CRM is available for you to manage your business by the numbers, which is of utmost importance nowadays. So those are the 6 areas it can help in your business. You can do a bunch of other stuff too, but that's kind of the general thing that it can do. Now the MarketSharp interface, going to the next slide, is really quite simple. And we designed this on purpose to make it feel to you guys as the end users of the software that you're working distinctly and separately with 3 groups of people: prospects, leads, and customers. Now it's one big relational database that all works together, but to you, the user, it feels like you're working separately with these groups, which is really important because your mission with these groups is totally different. So try to dump all your contacts into one file called contacts, and then try to make heads or tails out of what to do with this one and what about that one and so forth. It gets more difficult. So we've gone to great lengths to make MarketSharp as user-friendly as possible, so you do not have to have a bunch of geeks in your office with IT degrees trying to figure out how to run your CRM. And of course, the idea is to turn these prospects into leads, and of course, turn as many leads as possible into customers. So again, as James mentioned, if you haven't taken a look at MarketSharp ever, or even for a long time, you might want to get a demo scheduled and take a look. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about something really important. And what that is how MarketSharp chooses its partners. And our partner strategy is really quite simple. We really want to understand the needs of you guys, the clients out there, the people in the home improvement remodeling business. And we want to pick these partners that, when combined with MarketSharp, provide a seamless way to maximize this full lead funnel ownership that this webinar is all about. So that's really how we pick the partners. Next slide is going to talk about something really important. And what that is we're going to talk about how MarketSharp is at the center of your universe, so to speak, in your business. Here's a bunch of the partners we got, certainly not all of them by any means, but we got a bunch of people out there and companies that provide great services to our industry. And when we figure out how we're going to pick people to work with, we want to make sure they provide an awesome service, like many of them on this webinar right now. But here's the key part. We spend a lot of time and go to great lengths to make sure it works seamlessly with the core of your business, which is that CRM. So everything you're seeing here directly works with that data, so you don't have to do things like double entry and juggle 5, 6, 7, 8 different programs that don't necessarily speak with each other. It's critical that that's how this works. So now what I want to talk about and wind down before we get to really the star of this show, which is Patrick, who's going to talk about how this actually works in real life. The reason we got interested in Leap is very simple. What you're seeing on screen right now is about 1987 in my life. I was in the window replacement business, as I mentioned, and I believed in this concept of having a tool in the home to help me estimate my jobs and give that customer the feeling that, hey, this guy's prices aren't necessarily just coming off his or her head. It's being generated by a computer. So we went and programmed this little programmable computer, that little printer you see on the left. This is so cool. It actually had 4 little ballpoint pens in there that would rotate and draw things. And we had it drawn things like windows. And, we sold a window brand back then from Certainteed, and a rose was one of their logos. And it drew that kind of stuff. So it really kind of made the presentation fun. But what I found is this was very helpful in the sales process. So this thing hung around for a while until, of course, I kind of left the home improvement business, went into the MarketSharp world, so to speak. And all along, this kept being in the back of my mind that, we got this CRM called MarketSharp, but we don't have an estimating program. We don't have anything like I had back in 1987. So here's what we did. We made numerous attempts. With all the technology and the programmers we have, we spend over $1 million a year on technology here at MarketSharp with our programming staff. And we tried to create a great estimating program for our industry multiple times, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, got it to the point where it was okay, but I really never was really happy with it. One day, one of our clients, New Look Home Design, they said, hey, we created this estimating program, might be interesting to your customers. And I went, yeah, right. We've tried that. It's difficult. And I thought, yeah, well, we'll take a look. And they showed it to us, and I went, oh my gosh, this thing is really cool. And obviously whoever created this created it from the viewpoint of knowing this business inside and out. Come to find out, it was created by someone that's in the home selling every day. and just kind of created it in his spare time, which is exactly what I did when I created MarketSharp back then. So Steve Stencil created this tool, Steve Stencil from Leap, that we thought was really cool. And hence, we decided, you know what, we're just going to give up on creating this estimator, and we are going to go ahead and integrate with our friends at Leap. So why did we do that? If you go to the next slide, I won't read these reasons off, but why use technology in your estimating presentation process? Heck, I found this out back in 1987 with my little computer. It's a better experience for the homeowner, the salesperson, more control. You can sync this stuff with result information, far fewer mistakes. I used to hate things like mismeasured windows that got put in wrong and things such as that. And it really impacted closing ratios. And here's the thing nowadays, customers are really expecting companies to have these kind of tools. So with that, James, I think I'm going to pass it back to you, and let's get some feedback from a business owner here that's using these tools plus many others, and see what Pat thinks from his perspective.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tim. Really appreciate that. And you guys, we can't thank MarketSharp and their team enough. I mean, they've been a really early believer in us as a tool, and frankly, just been a phenomenal partner for us throughout the years. So thank you so much, Tim. We really appreciate you running through that stuff. And you guys, without further ado, we're going to just talk real quick, one high level. This is like a quick overview. Just when we talked about earlier, just summing all this stuff up, the marketing and lead gen and all these other pieces, you can see really MarketSharp and Leap are really just a power couple, if you will. It's like a supermodel and a rock star. So with that said, when we look at the two of these things combined, it really puts together just the best possible technological combination for you to own your leads throughout the entire funnel. It's from that point of creation all the way through in-home sales, everything that you need to do on the back end, and then putting that person all the way back into your CRM, tracking the job through install, and putting it back into that marketing cycle. The two of these products together are really just a match made in heaven. So without further ado, let's talk with Pat. Pat, thanks so much for joining us today. How's everything going on your end?
It's going well. Thanks, James. And thanks, Tim. You guys really know how to make a guest speaker feel special. So I'm feeling pretty good.
You are special.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get through my door here. My head's too big.
Well, again, there's Pat's beautiful face on this slide as well. What we want to do is, again, introduce these guys. Pat, take us away. Walk us through these couple points.
Yeah, so, New Look was founded in 2003. I came, like a lot of we probably did, came from inside the industry. I was working for somebody, and it didn't take long to realize that this was something that I could potentially do on my own. So we spun it off. We opened in 2003. We went through challenges, but expansion's been a big point in our growth. So I think we went through expansion model 2 times. We tried to push out into markets, and then we retracted, and then we tried again after the 2009 kind of housing crisis. So now we cover a 5-state territory, not including Washington, D.C., 6 if you count the district. We have about 40 sales reps and 40 sales reps, and it varies, 40 to 50 sales reps. And last year we installed about $30 million worth of jobs. The sales exceeding that a little bit, but obviously the install jobs and revenue lagging. So we've done a pretty good job of growing the business there year over year, and we're trying to make a strong push for about 45-50 million in install jobs this year, and we have a 3 to 5 year plan to get to 100 million.
That's awesome, Pat. Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about your history with the two pieces of technology. So one of the main reasons why we wanted you to join today, not only because you're a really cool guy and you've definitely been a significant part in Leap's past, you obviously know both of these tools very intimately, and can really help everybody on the call today understand how best to apply these to their own businesses. So why don't we take a chance right now, talk us through first and foremost on the left-hand side of this, what your history is with MarketSharp and where you started.
Okay, so we were, when we first started, obviously we were using Excel spreadsheets or Office database to kind of manage our customers and clients. We had trees of folders. It looked very much like a car dealership. We had folders all over the desks and tables, and we would move them from one file folder to another file folder. File 1 being, it's here in the process. File 2 being it's next in the process. And we looked for a product that we wanted to kind of manage our customers through, and we bought an off-the-shelf, out-of-the-box software called ACT, A-C-T. And we spent some time trying to get into that software, and we stayed with it for about 2 years, but it just had a tremendous amount of limitations. When we went into our expansion model, that software wasn't a cloud-based software, meaning it was installed on a server that sat in a room that we remote accessed in. And when we were starting to go into expansion models, that became challenging for us to VPN into a server. So we were looking for a cloud-based server. We knew MarketSharp was in the industry, but like a lot of people, you kind of, you fear big jumps into technology like that. But it was really driving into expansion that we wanted to make that change, because we didn't want to have to, when I got the quote for VPN servers and remote servers and things like that, I was like, this isn't going to work. So, we took the jump, and we brought in MarketSharp, and we went through a transition to that product. And it was beautiful because, again, it was a cloud-based product. My wife can tell you the story. At this point in time, we were probably 6 years in business or so, 7 years. Tim can probably tell you when we came on, but we were probably 6-7 years in business. And my wife will tell me that everything changed when we got MarketSharp. And I said, what do you mean everything changed when we got MarketSharp? She's like, that's when you really started getting distant. Because I now had access to data and customers on my cell phone. And that seems like so relevant, in like who doesn't have that. But I think some people are out there and they're not doing that. So I was able to look at sales and sales results and customers and leads in real time, and I found myself constantly glued to it as a business owner. In essence, we had kind of been in the dark for years. We had the information, but it would require me firing up my computer and going into various Excel spreadsheets. It just wasn't presented in that nice, clean way. So I was addicted overnight, and I felt a little bit of guilt and remorse. I mean, I felt great about taking the plunge, or the leap, no pun intended, to MarketSharp.
We love puns, Pat. We love puns.
Yeah. But I was a little bit regretful that I hadn't done it earlier, or hadn't done it sooner, and because it was awesome, and I was glued to it. So, my wife didn't love that I'd sit there with my phone in my hand, but, we were counting sales, and that was a big part of our growth. So, we built MarketSharp. We worked, hand in hand. I think as an enterprise customer, one of the things that I really valued in MarketSharp was the ability to work hand in hand with Tim and Jason. And because it was a cloud-based software, unlike an out-of-the-box software, changes were constantly coming out. Product releases were happening, monthly. So something that it didn't do, you could potentially email them, and with some amount of time and enough pinging them, eventually a product release would come out and we'd be like, wow, now this software that I already own, that I already use, does something that it didn't do before. So a product update on a cloud-based software was something that we hadn't experienced before. So it was excellent. It was awesome. So it was current, and it was growing, and it was growing with our business. So we really liked that. But the biggest thing, like at the top, really was just, again, that kind of just the customer management, the clarity, the transparency, like we had never seen before. Now we could spot bottlenecks and holes in the business to where we could really start to drive. A little bit about the introduction of Leap. Everything was fantastic for us, internally. So like, inside of our walls, we could kind of see the lead come into the business. We could see the lead see the prospect come into the business, or the inquiry come into the business, see it convert to a lead or a sale. See it convert to a lead, but then everything was lost when it went out the door. There was like a black spot, kind of. It was a blackout period, kind of like a shuttle going through the atmosphere. There's like this down point where you're just sitting there waiting for the CRM to be resulted as demo sold, or demo maybe, or no pitch, or no show, whatever it may be. So there was this blackout period, and we really, due to this transparency that we had seen, we were kind of on a thirst for it. So we wanted to kind of see transparency in the house at that point in time, and that was kind of missing. So I don't want to be real long-winded on this, but you guys probably all have salespeople. Some maybe have more than others. Some of you might be doing a multi-touch close. Some are probably doing a one-call close. But regardless, finding great salespeople is not easy to do, and really keeping those tenureships. That's something that we work on here heavily. Is we call it human capital, and that's really trying to have the right people working for us that are successful in the environment. So to find a single salesperson that can stay with you for a long period of time that's successful is challenging enough. And we had a gentleman that was working for us at the time. His name was Steve Stencil. And Steve is a legacy salesperson. He is a Babe Ruth to me. If there was a Hall of Fame for salespeople, I believe he would go into it. He was our salesperson of the year for 7 years running. And we weren't one of these stagnant companies. I mean, we were bringing people in, new people in, and they were chomping at the heels on him, but he was able to maintain that title for 7 years in a row. So that in itself is a feat. And he holds several records still at our company for closing percentages and most sales in a month and so forth. So to have that, just to have somebody stay with you in this business for 7 years out on the streets selling, I mean, that's challenging in its own. Now, Steve also is really hyper intelligent. He's got a tremendous ability to learn new things. And, he kind of solved that void too. He kind of solved that black hole. And he was doing his sales process. And in essence, he was saying, while every sales is slightly different, the process is the same. I mean, I'm in the house, I'm doing the same thing every single day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day, and it's a totally manual process. And that just, for somebody like Steve, that didn't feel good. So he started on, a journey to simplify the selling process for himself, not for the greater good of mankind or for the home improvement industry or the home services industry or for meat salesmen, but just for himself. And, independently, he kind of went rogue on us, and he started building what really was an Excel spreadsheet, a robust Excel spreadsheet that he could put measurements into, and it would multiply pricing out of. And grew from a spreadsheet to like a database, and then eventually grew to an app. To have a salesperson that's a salesperson of the year for 7 years, that's going in the house doing this, and also is a brilliant iOS developer. I mean, just a brilliant iOS developer, self-taught in that. What is just, I mean, that's a unicorn. I mean, that's a perfect storm. It doesn't happen. It's far and few between. So we're actually quite fortunate that, Steve was able to build this product with a company that had already adapted a CRM and was able to build it himself going in the house. And every night he would come home and he would work on his product, because every time he went in house, he would find a wall or a barrier that the product, it couldn't do. So, I think that's where others have tried to build this product and failed. Even if you pull together focus groups of salespeople, it's still something's missing. Steve would go into the house and he would see these, where the product in essence would let him down, or it couldn't do something that he needed to do because every situation was a little bit different. So over about four-year period, it developed from what was a very simple spreadsheet to not the product that we have here today, but a very good, viable, usable product. And then what started to happen is, like most folks, we have a little bit of turnover here, and salespeople would leave our organization and go to work for another organization. And the owners of those organizations were reaching out saying, what do you guys got over there? I mean, the salesperson said, we got to get it. We got to have it. And at that point in time, I think it was about middle of 2016 that, the product was finally really done viable. We were using it company-wide, integrated with MarketSharp. And MarketSharp was a great partner in that integration because we were using them. So they were working on their end via the API to help open things up for us. And, it was really in the fall of 2016 that we had to make a change. And, we had to make a decision. And it was, are we going to keep this a proprietary software, or are we going to share this? And I think most great proprietary softwares, I mean, Tim, a couple decades ago owned a home improvement company. I don't know what the name of that home improvement company was, but he referenced it. But today, everybody knows in the industry, pretty much MarketSharp is a brand or a household name within the home improvement space. So, at one point in time, this was a proprietary software that Tim was using for his business. And then the software actually outgrew the business and became, such a great product that he brought it to market. So in essence, we did the same thing. We wanted to, bring it to market. I'd like to say that it was selfless, but it's a great product, and there's earning potential behind it. So, we did it like that. And now we have this business that's beautiful and thriving has made great splashes. So that's kind of the story, of how it all came together. I am a brand advocate, obviously, for both of these products on multiple levels. And, I just love them, and we use them every single day.
Oh, thanks, Pat. That's awesome. That background gave us a really good understanding of where you were for both. So one of the main questions I want to ask too as we go through this is let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into specifics of each. So you've obviously been using MarketSharp for a number of years, and I will say this, with your business, knowing it a little bit better than a lot of the others on this conversation or on this webinar today, talk us through the three main advantages that you've seen thus far within the business. And I know you guys do that marketing and sales funnel arguably better than most I've ever seen. So walk us through those top three that we have here on the screen.
So, like I said, customer management. I mean, when we adopted MarketSharp, it was transparency into things. I mean, I could count leads as they were coming in. We could start to see conversion rates. So it was really just customer management, start to finish. The entire process, the entire funnel, and even remarketing them. So just that transparency. It was also, it was nice finally to be able to just search a customer. I mean, when a customer would call up, maybe a customer is maybe it's a service issue. Maybe it's a customer that calls in and, you got their information, but they weren't ready at the time. Just being able to do a database search and pull that customer up and see the entire history. I mean, I think at the highest macro level, like looking from the stratosphere, that's probably the greatest advantage of a CRM. I mean, there's so many advantages, but the greatest, single advantage just to be able to search John Smith and say, hey, yeah, are you the John Smith on 123 West Street? Yes. Looks like you came to us in 2007. You were a radio lead. Looks like we gave you an estimate. It was for this amount of money. Looks like at that time you said no because it was a timing issue. What can I do for you today? Like, that's not how the conversation's going, but you just kind of have that clarity to it. So at the macro level, I mean, just being able to see the customer's life cycle inside of your business and where they are, no matter, what stage they're in, just to be able to, at the snap of a finger, have that data. For us, it was searching through file folders before, or pulling up an Excel spreadsheet to see what stage you were then, and then literally saying, let's go grab the file. So now that's just not necessary. The second thing I think is, job progress management. And what that really means is production management. So, people always think, customers think, for instance, our number one product is roofing, and they think that that's a commodity. How challenging is it? You come out, we bought the roof from you, you come out, you put it on, we give you a check, no problem there. And you guys know it's so much more detailed than us. I mean, for us, there's so many processes that have to happen from the time that we convert that customer or convert that lead to a customer to the time we're done with them post install and ready to send them off to like Guild Quality. It's a 13-step production process for us. And that's if they don't have a homeowners association. If they have an HOA or they require a permit, then another step is layered in. So it's 13 steps. So really, MarketSharp gives us the ability to take down those 13 file folders and manage that digitally and really shine clarity. Oh, this person's behind. This person is, should be in step 7. They're only in step 4. And really manage your customer base through the process and making sure that it's, if somebody's in a file and they're sitting in the back of, the file bin number 7, step 7, you don't have it's not in your face. You don't have a status check on that. You don't know if it's supposed to be in 10 or whether it's supposed to be in 7 based on the time the job was sold. So really just tracking the progress of that is probably the second, the really big thing for us as far as MarketSharp goes. And they have a really nice production portion of the software that's built in there that we use pretty extensively. And then the last but not least was really, I couldn't pick between the two, so I just kind of plugged 2 in here. Obviously, reporting is really important. And our reporting sets have grown and grown and grown. I show our reporting sets to people and they get really excited about them. So it's really a report set is just excellent for a business owner because it's like stats. It's like, when you got a baseball card and you flipped it over on the back and you went right to batting averages and on base percentages, or it's just transparency into where things are. So being able to go in and run, a variety of reports and pull that information out is really important. But I couldn't leave out call center because we use their call center software maybe more robustly than anybody else. I don't know, Tim can attest to that, but we were a pretty big part, I think, of building that call center software out. And that's a testament to their kind of autonomy and kind of adaptability to a customer that says, hey, we need this or we need that. So Tim and Jason worked pretty aggressively. It was a 2-year project to build that call center software out. But I mean, it's a great call center software, and we use that to monitor everything. You can set frequencies, you can set call cadences behind it. When a lead comes in, it's funny. There's a time to call, which is always a big metric in like either a lead aggregator or an internet lead comes in. And when a lead comes in, somebody fills out a web conversion form on our website, our reaction time on that is typically less than 30 seconds. So they hit submit, and I dare you guys to test it. Go on our website right now, put your information in, and you'll get a call probably in 15 seconds. Where your phone is ringing and it says, hi, you guys just submitted for a request for an estimate on our website, to a point where it's like scary. So MarketSharp owns that. So we do that inside of them. So it's the reaction time, or they call it speed to lead. So the speed to lead time at New Look is unparalleled.
That's great.
Unparalleled. So, and there's a host of other things that we can go into. We manage service portal and everything like that through it. But for us, those seem to be the big takeaways.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. So here's one of the things I want to do on this. We can go into the advantages of Leap, but one of the main questions that's getting dropped into the section the most is people are really asking how specifically you've been integrating Leap within your business. So I think one of the ways that will help us without going into too much of a technical demo on this, which again, we'd really love for you guys to dive in and do that one-on-one. It's always best to have it catered specifically to your business. What I'd love, Pat, is instead of diving into 3 bullet points on this, why don't you do us a favor and just walk us through how your reps are leveraging Leap in the field and what they're doing, kind of like how they use it. So kind of walk us through one of the pitches that a sales rep would undergo with one of the qualified customers.
Okay. So like we're tech is one of those beautiful things that as you start to adopt it, you just thirst for it. You want more and more of it. So one of the things that we're doing with now is we're working with, again, we're a roofing company, so we work mainly a roofing company. We sell some other products, but we're working with Hover and EagleView on integrations through Leap as great partners. And so, what's happening for us now is like when our sales reps, our sales reps arrive at the house. Well, first and foremost, our sales rep are dispatched the lead. They're pinged when we drop their name on the lead inside of MarketSharp. They're pinged that they have an appointment. We typically dispatch all of our appointments the day before. They get that lead, and then what they're going to do is they're going to go and they're going to head out to the house. When they get to the house, they're either going to pull an EagleView or a Hover. It kind of depends, but they're going to pull an EagleView and a Hover, and then they're going to start their warm up. And they typically do that right when they get on site. They're going to start their warm up in the house. And in that warm up, they're going to be going through a little bit of like, a little bit of a company story and so forth. One of the great things for us is, the resource center that James showed you just for a second. It's a tab that's hosted, and I can put in new resources. I can take old resources out. If I want to update our company story, I can update our company story. So they're going to sit down at the table. They're going to do the company story. At some point in time, they're going to get a notification back that the Leap or the Hover's been completed. And what they're going to do is they're going to go into their estimate, and they're going to build an estimate for this prospect. So they're going to open the customer. The customer's already in there. They pulled it right down through the CRM. And then they're going to just open the Hover, or they're going to open EagleView, whichever one they pulled, and they're going to pull the measurements in. When they pull the measurements in, it's going to convert. James is frantically going back. When they pull the measurements in, it's going to plug all these numbers in.
That was hyper button.
It's going to plug all these numbers in for them. So our guys are they're not going outside. If they're going outside, they're going outside for a product inspection. They're going outside to walk the homeowner around. But it's going to pull all this information in, and it's going to take these measurements and it's going to plug them right in. And here's the thing. This is really the backbone of Leap. The measurements are always consistent. They never change. But what changes is the price and the products that you're selling. A roofing square is a roofing square. A piece of underlayment is a piece of underlayment. A faucet is a faucet. A toilet is a toilet, right? A window is a window. So it's those things don't change. I mean, that's the constant. The variable is what products you sell. So they pull this information in, and then what it does is it produces these packages that I've created internally. So it produces a good, better, best package. And with a snap of a finger, they have their estimate on a variety of packages and products for the customer. So it's really pricing control. So, and it's really, it allows them to give their attention to the customer. Like I said, when we go outside, they're not going outside with a wheel or a tape measure. They're going outside with the customer. They're looking at streaking, they're looking at shingle blow off, they're looking at the previous install, they're upselling siding, they're upselling windows, they're looking at the door, because obviously they want to look at the house, but we don't need to measure it. So, you know, for us, it's like, you know, what do you do with that time? So you refocus that time on the customer, and that in our training, you can take the training, instead of focusing so much time on teaching people how to price and measure, we now take that same time and we teach people how to sell, develop relations, and communicate with the customer. So it's transitioned our training, and you know, we don't have to do that. Focus so much on pricing and how to measure, which even 5 years in, you know, people still make measure errors and pricing errors. So we've eliminated those through the integration. So then, you know, you're back at the table, and you know, when it comes time to do your price presentation, I don't know, some people are writing it down on a piece of paper. Some people are, you know, maybe just saying it out loud. Well, with us, we're able to create this beautiful price presentation with inside of Leap, and we can kind of turn it around and you can kind of show it to them. And I think when something is digitized, writing that price down on a piece of paper and sliding it over, and it's typically like in a whole number, like $14,200 or $3,800, it feels like you just pulled that out of thin air from the customer perspective. So for Leap, it's this very powerful tool, because when, for some reason, when something's on a computer screen, it's less questionable. And I always say, like, imagine if you went to the grocery store and the cashier, instead of scanning stuff across the thing, they just kind of took it and put it in the bag, and they kind of typed it in on a calculator, right? They typed it in on the calculator. And then at the end, they just looked at you, you didn't see anything, and they said, that'll be $127. You'd be like, hold on for a second, is that right? I mean, it would seem scary. So there's comfort in the fact that they're going shtoop, shtoop, and you're seeing, you know, you're seeing how that's working. So in the end, when it says $237.64, and by the way, you saved $13.27 today, there's a trust there. So that's what Leap does in a price presentation. That's what Leap does when we show our customers pricing versus some of our competitors that are writing it on a piece of paper or sending it in an email. And she says, I can do it for $8,000. It's like, well, how did you come to that? So Leap does a really good job of breaking all that down. And again, it even shows the savings. And with us, you can save X, you know, today. So it does that. And then what is probably the greatest, I don't, you know, everybody's got their own opinion of it, but, you know, what is probably the best portion of it is now, you know, you look at this contract here today. I mean, contract errors, unlegible handwriting. I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, what do you do when you're a salesperson and you write the whole contract out and then you make a handwritten error on like the very last page or something like that? Like, are you going to redo the whole thing, or are you just going to put a line through it and throw some initials next to it? And for us, that was like a constant battle. I mean, just sloppy, uneligible, they just weren't professional. And our average ticket's $14,000, and you're spending $14,000 with a company this day and age, and they give you an unlegible, sloppy, vaguely written with scratch outs and initials on a contract. Like, that doesn't feel very good from the consumer perspective. So Leap does these beautiful contracts, and they're awesome. And it's digital. It sends the contract. It does everything it needs to do. It sends the contract to the customer, and you know, and it's beautiful. You can take the contract, you can send it back to a sales manager so we can review the contract before it's signed for somebody that's new. So it just really increases the quality control. And then last but not least,
Pat.
Yeah, too long?
Pat, some of our customers love getting those BCCs directly to them. Do you have, anytime your reps sell a job in the field, do you get BCC'd on those things?
Yeah. So what'll happen is, before they take it to Signet, well, so BCC two ways. So I can get BCC'd when the sale happens, and then you also can get, you know, I've had customers send me the contract and say, hey, can you look at this before we sign it? I want to make sure everything's right. So it works two ways. So they're pushing that contract to you. You can review it as the manager, make sure everything looks cool, text them back, say, hey man, looks good, go ahead, sign it up. And they sign it up, and that way it's good. It's contract compliant. There's also an integration with GroupMe. We use GroupMe, and like the sale can post it. Like if you have a shared GroupMe, it's like a shared text, a shared chat. it's really cheap. It's a nothing software, but you invite everybody to this group and then it'll shoot out, hey, Mike sold for 14,000. Hey, so it kind of gamifies the sales process. And then look, the last thing is just resulting it, right? So the last thing is, well, two things. One is obtaining financing and resulting it. So, for us, financing didn't account for a huge part of our business. I think it was about 30%. Well, through Leap and the integration of financing, we've gone to we're at like 75% year to date. So 75% of the customers that we buy or that buy our products are financing them. If you're down at like the 10% or 15% model, you're probably losing customers. You probably are, because not everybody has the money to shell out to pay for these things. I mean, there's a reason that 99% of cars are financed, because they're tens of thousands of dollars. Well, if you're selling home improvements that are tens of thousands of dollars and you're 85% cash basis, that doesn't make sense. You should be 75% financed basis. So, financing is a little bit scary. So Leap kind of simplifies the process for homeowners. And then last but not least, it results. It takes all this information and it uploads it to the CRM. So if it's a no sale, we're capturing all the data, how the thing was quoted. We're able to rehash deals. Think about it being a rehash manager, somebody that's calling behind a salesperson. We're able to rehash the deals now. Rehash accounts for about 10% of our sales. And we're able to go behind and we're able to see what financing programs were offered, what the price was, what you left it at, what you measured, and we have all this information. So everything's kind of updated and glued together in real time. So there's no black hole anymore. I mean, Leap closes it up, and it truly is, as Tim said, the full funnel. I mean, it is start to finish and then nurture after that. So you're either going to start with this lead, you're going to take them all the way through customer, and then you're going to nurture them, or you're going to start with this lead, take them to a demo maybe or a no sale, and you're going to nurture them after that. So the two products literally solve, there's no gaps. They're seamless. Everything works.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat, for doing this. And I know we're running a little bit short on time, you guys. So what I want to do is, lastly, I want to open this up for questions for folks, and then we'll end this off by really sharing out just some pro tips from Pat on the way out, where to get started, what kind of questions to ask internally. So one of the common questions that we get a lot on this is, great, what's pricing? So one of the neat things when you look at this is there's no two businesses that are going to be alike. So what's super important for us is to put together a model that actually allows you to have this tool catered specifically to you guys. So we at Leap use a more tiered pricing structure. So if you guys are really wanting to get an accurate estimate of what this is going to look like, our packages range anywhere from 105 per user all the way down from there. So again, it's something where we absolutely want to take a look at your business individually to see exactly how many users you have in the field, what the build's going to look like. The most important piece out of all of this is to understand that the way our product works and the way we onboard you guys is we assign one dedicated person to you to help build this thing out brick by brick. The way it is in Pat's system at New Look didn't start that way from day one. They've gone through a lot of trials and iterations, and oh my God, we saw somebody using it like this. Let's try this a little bit different. Or hey, I had an idea last night before I went to bed. I wrote it down, woke up, and here's what I want to talk about today. So there's a lot of really cool things that we can do to work with you guys to custom design this specifically for you. I would really implore you to get that one-on-one conversation going, really understand the fit, see the intricacies of what we just discussed and how Pat's leveraging the tool at New Look, et cetera, and then as well to how it integrates with MarketSharp. So that's one of the ways in which we can get down to also a very clear, concise price on exactly what it does. Another person just asked about the commissions. So when we showed that slide where Pat was like, hey, this is how we use GroupMe, et cetera, so-and-so just sold this job for $14K, we can actually use a formula specific to how your business calculates your commissions. So it's as simple as us saying, if we know the average par price, and this is just one example, I will say there's really not been a single company of the 500 or so that we work with that we haven't been able to go back in and make it work with your calculation. But the long and the short of it is we can say, we know the MSRP, we know the par price for that job, we know exactly where that salesperson sold it at. From that, we can compare the two and say, all right, well, if they get 5% of par and then anything above par, they get 15%. It's a simple formula for us to put together. Hey, if everything goes good, if this person doesn't cancel, or your commission might go up if they start adding items later on, you're going to be making roughly this amount of money when you result the lead. So it's really a nice treat for that rep to get pumped about what they just spent likely hours in the home doing. So it's a really cool feature that we've added on. Plus, when you use GroupMe like Pat does at his organization, it's a way to really poke the bear with the other sales reps to say, well, hey, Tim just sold the deal for 20 grand and it's going to get a nice little check for 2,500 bucks. What have you done lately? So it'll light the fire under my butt to want to go out and do something bigger and better, so I don't come back to the office and be left with my foot in my mouth. So another question we just got is on financing. Does a sales rep wait while the customer speaks to the lender on the phone or online? Must be long appointments if so. Here's one of the coolest things about Leap is Leap actually directly integrates with a number of lenders. So we integrate with Green Sky Service, Foundation Finance, as well as Fortiva Financial. We're in talks with a number of others. We should be up to about 8 by the end of the year. That's the goal. The beauty of that is what you can do is you can flip the iPad around to that person. They are entering all their information. You can actually submit the application immediately on site as long as you have that connectivity. And at that point, you can get a credit decision within minutes. If there are other extenuating circumstances where more details are needed in order to get that credit decision, you can have it signed as pending, and then from there, all of that data, again, like Pat said, seamlessly integrates back into MarketSharp, and your finance teams in-house can actually help get those things moved along. So it's actually really cool. You can get decisions on site while that rep is in the home with the customer. It all depends on how you guys run that. Some companies do, some companies don't. Everybody has their own process. And then next, one of the other questions is, how long does it typically take to calculate a price in the home? Pat, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to answer this one. If one of your reps is in the home and you integrate with, say, like EagleView or Hover for siding or for roofing, how long does it take for one of your reps using those integrations to put together those packages you mentioned?
So it's instantaneous once the measurement comes back from Hover or EagleView. So if you're an EagleView user, you can actually order it like when you're on your way to the job or the day before, and as soon as it's back, you literally just click one button and the estimate's done. So you're ready to go to contract, you're ready to go to proposal. With Hover, you have to get pictures, which is a little bit different. What we do.
But again, if you did that ahead of time.
Yep. But as soon as the Hover report is back, the integration is instantaneous. So it's really about it's about doing that. And Hover's nice because you get a 3D image of the house and you can build all that. And they have the technology now for you to invite the homeowner to take the pictures before you get to the job site. So the homeowner can take the pictures, the measurements come back to you, not to the homeowner. And then when you get on site, you're ready to go. You have everything. But so you're just waiting on Hover or EagleView to send it back. Once it's back, you're golden. It's 1 second.
Awesome. So long and the short of it, you guys, is you can actually get those estimates put together. If I'm doing a demo with a customer using our accounts, I can pull an EagleView or a Hover report, or I can manually measure and enter that stuff in. The pricing comes up instantaneously, and I can flip between packages. So if I say, do you want your platinum, silver, or gold package? It's really easy for me to flip through each one of those in a matter of seconds. So again, here's what I want to do as a parting thought on this. For any of you who want to know more, obviously we ran a little bit long, but really, really, really implore you guys to if you're hungry at all for more information on either MarketSharp or Leap, by all means, go to the landing pages you see below. We're going to reach out to each and every one of you individually just to talk about your experience on the webinar today and try and help you with next steps. So what I recommend you do, if you want, take these URLs down. You can always reach out to us as well at info@leaptodigital.com. Again, we're going to be following up with each and every one of you too, so be prepared for that as well. So again, Pat, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. It's been an awesome ride thus far, and we're really looking forward to growing with you guys at New Look. Tim, Same thing with you. Thank you so much for joining with us. You guys have been an awesome partner. I'd love to go into more detail with everyone. It sucks we're limited to 1 hour because we could literally spend all day on this. It's that cool. But the long and the short of it is, again, we're really looking forward to more conversations with each and every one of you. So any parting thoughts or comments, Pat or Tim?
No, I just want to thank everybody, and just that financing question, just so everybody knows, we have about 90% of the deals are approved, 10% are finance rejected, and of the approvals, I'd say 75% of those are approved in home, and they're signing their documents with their finger on the iPad, same time they're signing their contracts. So it's signed and sealed and delivered when you leave the house. The remaining 25%, we probably have to either DocuSign the loan docs to them, because we have to go through a little bit more of a second tier lender.
Got it. Cool.
So just give
that.
They knew, because and most people don't, when you hear 75% are financed, you're like, really? So yeah, that's a little different.
Very cool. And again, you guys, it's really easy to integrate with the lenders, or with those lenders I mentioned earlier. It's basically the flip of a switch and you get rocking. So, Tim, any last questions or comments on your end?
No, just excited about continuing to evolve this partnership. I think MarketSharp and Leap really is a dream team. Question I have for you, James, is which one is a rock star and which one's a supermodel? Oh, we have Pat's picture up there, so we know which one.
We're more rock.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'll say we're rock stars.
All right, you can have that.
You're prettier than me.
Awesome. No, thanks so much. Thanks so much to everybody for joining us, and thanks, James, for putting everything together, and thank you, Pat, for your awesome comments on both solutions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining today. We'll be getting in touch with each and every one of you. We'll also share out this recording. It'll be stored on our YouTube as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday, and we'll see you soon.